Hi, I was a bit overwhelmed when Anna asked me to give a presentation on MSY and the ecosystem perspective, because contrary to what she said earlier, I don't really work with MSY at all, but I do in my day-to-day work have to convince decision makers and politicians on the decisions they should be making about MSY and why the Commission should be pushing for MSY in the proposal for the new CFP reform. So, although I was hoping to come to this workshop to learn a lot about MSY and not to be standing up here telling you all about what I don't really know. So, apologies, I think we're going to drop down several levels from the earlier presentations, but it'll be a different perspective. Certainly when we're talking to decision makers, everybody thinks they know what MSY is. It's this nice curve, it's a dot on the curve. There's probably MEY there as well. This was taken from a report Prince Charles's International Sustainability Unit just produced about how to save global fisheries. So everyone's talking about MSY, even the British royals at the minute. But do we really know what MSY is? Everyone I talk to is baffled. Is it a target? Is it a reference point? Is it a limit to be avoided at all costs? When you look in the literature, it's really been contentious for a long time. Taking another quote from in line with Sydney's example, it was the epitaph to MSY from 1977. Here lies the concept MSY, it advocated yields too high. So, already back in the 70s, we had concerns. Obviously, a lot's happened since then, and trying to explain to people everything that's happened is a big challenge. The NGOs working in Brussels, working with the Commission at the minute, have had to try and explain MSY on a daily basis. I said to decision makers, there's 730 members of the European Parliament who are deciding the future of European fisheries, and most of them probably don't know what a fish is, except for the ones that have been educated by Sydney in the Green Group. Journalists call us regularly, so what is it really simply? It's the largest average yield that can be taken from a species stock over an indefinite period, etc. We've had more refined definitions earlier. I think one thing that's very clear, and the things that Anna is obviously addressing, is the multi-species. All the definitions really talk about a single species, and people constantly come and ask, what about multi-species? How do you work with that? So this is going to be something that's obviously going to be important in the group, looking at environmental impacts or the environmental perspective of MSY. As Anna said, as we all know, fisheries often target multiple species that coexist simultaneously. We need to work out how to deal with this. Many of the considerations, again, I feel like coming after Anna, I'm just summarizing what she said. Multi-species interactions are important. It's also very important to maintain biodiversity and genetic diversity. We need to reduce bycatch and waste. Discards is a huge issue. It's another one that's really a big issue in the political debate right now, and that has impacts on MSY. We need to look at seasonality, spatial distribution, the characteristics of the stocks, etc., etc. It's a long list. So how do we deal with all this biodiversity? I don't have the answers. Some of the questions that come to me that I hope we can answer here this week are really, how do we ensure we fish optimally on one stock without impacting negatively on another? How do we take into consideration all the stock characteristics that are so variable, including things like recruitment and natural mortality? How do we consider the changes in the stock or ecosystem structure which may impair recovery? We have to take these things into consideration when we're choosing the limits or where we're going to be fishing at. And there's been a lot of discussion about selectivity, and that changes what we take out of the ecosystem. And I guess selectivity is also then changes the way we fish, so it's something key, certain. I think one critical thing is that has been said many times today, and which is very hard to get across in a political message. We're not looking to fish at MSY, we're looking for fish to be exploited above MSY. really, no, we want the stocks. I did that once in a press release, and it was very embarrassing. We don't want to be exploring above MSY, we want the stocks to be above MSY at the same time. So, and again, identifying which is the choke species, so which ones are the closest to MSY and how far can we go across. While I was looking for information and trying to prepare this presentation, I found a paper from 2007 I really liked. So I had the 10 commandments for ecosystem-based fisheries scientists. And some key things came out that I think are important in this discussion is that we really need to have a holistic, risk-averse and adaptive perspective. We need to question the key assumptions and think about what are we trying to do and how are we going to do what, how are we going to get where we want to be. We have to maintain the old growth age structure in fish populations. You know, it's critical that we're exploiting, again, as I said, not at MSY, but at levels that allow stocks to be above MSY, so that we have the bigger fish to ensure a longer term future. Other things that really came out was that we have to bear in mind that ecosystems change through time, so it's not about setting a fixed point in time, but really about setting something that can adapt. So that was it, really short. So.